This vase was my grandfather's. He visited China for over a year in the 1920s, and it has just come down through the family. We thought that it was very old, and there is a marking on the bottom that doesn't seem to be a stamp. It seems to be painted on, so we thought maybe it was the real thing.
The story of this vase begins with Japan rather than China, even though its appearance easily invites that assumption. Created by Makuzu Kozan, one of the most important ceramic artists of the Meiji period, the work reflects a moment when Japanese artists deliberately mastered and reinterpreted classical Chinese visual language. Active from the late 19th into the early 20th century, Kozan was celebrated for his technical innovation and for bridging Eastern traditions with Western ceramic methods newly introduced from Europe. His reputation was so great that he was eventually appointed artist-in-residence to the Japanese imperial household. The vase is made of porcelain and displays a refined dialogue between underglaze and overglaze decoration. The reserved panels feature plum blossoms rendered in a distinctly Chinese style, a symbol of resilience and renewal, while the surrounding surface is covered with subtle embossed patterns derived from ancient Chinese bronze vessels. This combination of sculptural texture and painted imagery is characteristic of Kozan's most ambitious works. The mark on the base, painted in underglaze blue, deliberately resembles a Ming Dynasty inscription, yet it reads Dai Nippon Kozan Sei, meaning made by Kozan in Great Japan. Together, the form, decoration, and mark reveal a masterpiece of Meiji artistry, one that embodies Japan's confidence in engaging with the past while asserting its own artistic identity.
He introduced Japan to more Western techniques for doing ceramics from Europe, and in fact he was so important that the imperial family of Japan invited him to be their artist in residence.
Oh my goodness.
This would have been made in the late 19th century. It's in excellent condition for its age. At auction, I would put the reserve of $10,000 to $12,000.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Over 40 years ago, I was a paper boy, and I found this brooch near a dumpster while delivering papers in an apartment complex. And I took it home and I gave it to my mother, and she put it in her junk drawer. And it was years later when my father took it out and took a close look at it and took it in to have it appraised. And it was appraised at about $4,000 at the time. But this was about 30 years ago it was appraised. And we found it about 40 years ago, so it's about 10 years in between.
Created during the Edwardian period in the early 20th century, this brooch exemplifies the refined elegance and technical precision that defined jewelry of that era. Although its maker is unknown, the craftsmanship clearly aligns with the traditions of leading Anglo-American jewelers specializing in delicate platinum work and diamond settings. The piece is constructed in platinum and centered by a substantial old mine-cut diamond of approximately 3/4 of a carat. Surrounding it is a meticulously pierced openwork design, where additional old mine-cut diamonds appear to float within the filigree-like structure. Along the outer frame, smaller diamonds are pavés, set to create a continuous sparkle and to emphasize the brooch's elongated, graceful silhouette. The overall layout, symmetrical, airy, and intricately detailed, reflects the Edwardian taste for lightness, femininity, and finely executed metalwork. Functionally, the brooch was designed for versatility. A discreet loop on the reverse allows it to be worn not only as a pin, but also as a pendant, adapting elegantly to different occasions.
I would appraise it for $6,000 today.
$6,000, wow.
Yeah, so it's gone up.
It has.
You keep it around, it may still go up. I love dumpster diamonds. I love that.
I bought it at an estate sale probably 15, 20 years ago. Paid probably less than $50 for it. I just thought it was ugly.
And you told me you like big green pots.
Yeah.
Which this is.
Yeah.
Groovy collectors like big organic pieces.
Okay.
And this one is extremely organic.
This large ceramic vessel was produced by Gruby Pottery of Boston, one of the most important American art potteries of the arts and crafts movement, active primarily in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Gruby is best known for its bold, organic forms and its distinctive, thick, glossy green glazes, qualities that are strongly present in this example. The glaze is rich and unctuous, flowing heavily across the surface, with slight thinning in a few areas that collectors generally regard as a natural result of hand application rather than a defect. What most clearly distinguishes this piece is its sculptural surface. The leaves arranged around the rim were individually hand-built, carefully shaped, and curled by hand, a labor-intensive process that adds movement and depth to the form. The vessel's substantial scale, weight, and rounded, organic mass give it a powerful presence that aligns closely with the ideals of arts and crafts pottery. The marks on the base identify it as Gruby Pottery Boston and include the initials WP, confirming that the leaf decoration was executed by Wilmina Post, one of the artists associated with the workshop. Taken together, the craftsmanship, scale, and glaze place this vessel among the more desirable and visually striking examples of Gruby pottery production.
Have you thought about what it might be worth today?
About maybe $2,000 to $3,000.
We figure at auction, it's probably somewhere in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. So that's not bad for a $50 investment.
No, that's kind of stunning. It's not as ugly anymore.
Not
I buy houses. It's a business of mine, and 10 or 11 years ago, one of the first houses we bought, this happened to be amongst a bunch of junk in a house that was kind of a hoarder's type of situation, and we found them in the basement buried under a pile of trash.
Any sense of how a piece like this ended up in the basement of a house?
I believe that this was given to the owner of that house who had passed away. He was a president of a community council, and this had sat on top of a pedestal that was a World War II monument.
This carved wooden sculpture, made from laminated wood, is believed to date from the late 19th century, around the 1880s. It was originally created for public display, most likely as part of a civic or commemorative monument. Its scale, posture, and commanding presence all reflect the visual language of public sculpture, intended to be viewed from a distance. As a work rooted in American folk-style monumental carving, the sculpture shows less emphasis on academic precision and more on bold outlines, expressive form, and straightforward craftsmanship. Though the detailing is not intricate, the overall silhouette carries dignity and strength, qualities well suited for a figure meant to serve as a public emblem. The surface was once finished with a verdigris-colored coating, a greenish paint designed to imitate aged bronze, a common 19th century practice when wood was used instead of metal in order to reduce production cost. When elevated on a pedestal, this finish would allow the sculpture to resemble a bronze monument, preserving the desired visual impact.
I would say at auction, maybe $5,000 to $7,000.
Okay.
My grandfather, who worked for the Norfolk and Western Railroad for years, was a major collector of antiques as well as Native American art. He's had this piece ever since I can remember. So when he passed away, I wound up with this piece and have had it for, well, probably at least 20 years.
How long do you think your granddad had it?
He probably had it at least 60 years or better.
At first glance, this object appears to be nothing more than a clay vessel shaped like a bird. But the longer you look, the more it feels like it is trying to tell a story, one written not in words, but in symbols. This piece was made along the northern Rio Grande in New Mexico by Pueblo potters, most likely from the Cochiti or Santo Domingo communities, sometime in the late 19th century. Although it functions as a water pitcher, its form and decoration go far beyond simple utility. The bird shape is intentional. In Pueblo belief, Birds serve as messengers between the earthly world and the upper world of clouds and rain. Across the surface, geometric forms represent clouds, while downward-pointing lines and white dashes symbolize falling rain. A bolt of lightning descends from above, completing the cycle that brings life to the land. Along the lower band, deer are shown gazing skyward, waiting for rain so grass may grow, because agriculture, animals, and human life are inseparable. A small dog appears as well, a reminder of companionship and protection, deeply rooted in tribal tradition. Though this vessel was likely created for trade rather than ceremonial use, the imagery itself is ancient, drawn from beliefs over 1,000 years old. Handmade from locally gathered clay and worn through real use, this piece quietly preserves a worldview where nature, survival, and spirituality were inseparable.
I would say on a retail basis, this would be worth approximately $6,500.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Oh my gosh. This was not something I was expecting for certain.
This is jewelry that I inherited from my mother. Sorry, I have a little laryngitis.
What, all right?
And I believe she got them from her mother and her grandmother. She left Germany before the war, emigrated to Palestine and then the United States.
The diamond ring is crafted in platinum and dates to the 1950s. It features 2 transitional cut diamonds, each weighing approximately 2.25 carats. These cuts bridge the gap between old European cuts and modern round brilliant diamonds, reflecting a moment of technical and aesthetic transition in diamond cutting. The shoulders of the ring are further enhanced with over 1 carat of baguette-cut diamonds, adding structure and architectural elegance. Designed for everyday elegance as well as formal wear, the ring exemplifies mid-century luxury and precision. The brooch, by contrast, is an art modern piece dating to around 1935. Set primarily in platinum with a white gold pin stem, it is adorned with old European and old single-cut diamonds totaling approximately 11 carats. Its most remarkable feature is its versatility. The brooch includes additional fittings that allow it to be separated into multiple clips or reconfigured into smaller brooches, demonstrating both functional ingenuity and aesthetic sophistication. Based on its style and construction, the brooch is likely of German or Austrian origin. Together, these pieces illustrate the evolution of fine jewelry design across 2 distinct periods. They combine exceptional materials, innovative engineering, and timeless beauty, standing as powerful examples of how jewelry can function both as wearable art and as a historical document of craftsmanship and style.
The diamond ring, I would say for auction, you'd be looking at the $25,000 to $35,000 range.
Whoa.
The brooch, it's very unusual, and I wouldn't be surprised if we could expect in the $40,000 to $60,000 range at auction.
That's amazing.
It's a great piece.
That's amazing. I'm kind of speechless, voiceless, and speechless. That's amazing. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
I don't know a whole lot about it other than it was a gift from my Aunt Marilyn, and she gave it to me about 15 years ago. She purchased it from the professor from Boston University who was retiring, and he was a professor of American Indian art. And he sold off his entire collection. She bought 2 pieces. This is the one surviving piece. The other one was broken. She purchased it, it was 1959.
It's a Native American pot. Do you know the tribe that made it?
I think it's Hopi.
It is Hopi. It's from an area on the Hopi reservation called Hano. These are very, very ancient designs.
This Hopi pottery vessel originates from Hano, a village on the Hopi reservation in northeastern Arizona, and dates to the early 20th century, likely the 1910s. Although the form draws on ancient Pueblo traditions, its artistic significance lies above all in its maker. The pot is attributed to Nampeo of Hano, widely regarded as the most influential Pueblo potter of the 20th century, and a transformative figure in Native American ceramics. Nampeo revitalized Pueblo pottery by studying shards of prehistoric Sikyatki pottery found near her home and reinterpreting their designs for a modern context. Her work helped re-establish a visual language that had been lost for generations and inspired an entire lineage of potters, especially within her own family. One of her defining characteristics was a strong sense of balance and symmetry, often organizing decoration into 4 distinct visual fields. This vessel is a seed jar, identifiable by its rounded body and tightly constricted neck, a form intended to regulate airflow and protect stored seeds. The surface is decorated with finely painted polychrome designs in reddish brown and dark brown, including highly abstracted feather and bird motifs arranged in harmonious quadrants. Both the refined brushwork and the controlled geometry exemplify Nampeo's mature style.
Did you have a feeling for value?
I don't. I know she paid $75 for it back in '59.
That was a good deal in 1959.
I figured it probably was.
I think on a retail basis, this pot would perform very well, maybe in the neighborhood of $12,000 to $15,000.
12 to 15? Okay.
It's a very, very special pot.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's
made by
a great piece.
The greatest potter, perhaps, in North America
Really? Yeah.
of the 20th century.
Huh.
My mother had given it to me, and it had been given to her by a family friend and had gone down a couple generations. The friend who provided this to my mother, she traveled extensively through Europe. She was just very close to my mom, and then when she gave it to her. So I really know very little about it.
She gave your mother a really fine gift.
Really?
At first encounter, this figure feels less like a ceramic object and more like a moment suspended in decoration. It is an exceptional example of Art Nouveau porcelain by the Amphora Porcelain Company, produced in Turnteplitz, Bohemia, around 1900 to 1905. Amphora was one of the most innovative ceramic firms of the period, and this work is attributed to the sculptor and designer Nikolaus Kanhäuser, whose figures are prized for their elegance and complexity. The piece bears the RSTK mark, standing for Riesner, Stellmacher, and Kessel, one of the key partnerships behind Amphora's finest output. What immediately distinguishes this figure is the richness of its surface treatment. The decoration unfolds in layers, moving from painted and gilded areas to raised enamel work and jewel-like embellishments known as bijoux, a hallmark of Amphora's most ambitious designs. Stylized trees, flowers, and geometric forms surround the central figure, creating a visual rhythm that recalls the ornamental language of Gustav Klimt and the broader Viennese secession. The translucent glazes, metallic highlights, and applied faux jewels work together to produce a sense of depth and luminosity rarely achieved in porcelain. The figure's crown, posture, and elaborate setting indicate a high-end variant of the model, made in a larger size with maximum decorative elements.
As an estimate, easily would be $3,000 to $4,000.
Wow.
In a shop, most likely more than that, more like $5,000, perhaps up. She could have been smaller. She could have had less going on around her. She could not have had a crown. She's got it all.
Yeah.
She's a real winner.
Wow. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. When I saw it, you brought this up, my heart skipped a beat.
My mother purchased it at an auction many, many years ago for $5.
For $5? She was some sport, huh?
She had an eye for things.
And did she talk about it?
No.
Do you remember it as a child?
Oh,
seeing
sure.
it?
But I don't think she ever knew anything about it, and I didn't think much about it.
But you looked it up. I mean, you see it signed on it, and you know who the artist is.
I'm thinking Augustus St. Gaudens.
Yes.
This finely crafted bronze study originates from Augustus St. Gaudens, 1848 to 1907, one of America's most celebrated sculptors of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Renowned for his monumental public works, including the Shaw Memorial in Boston, the Farragut Monument in New York, and the Lincoln statue in Chicago, St. Gaudens, also left an indelible mark on American numismatic history as the designer of the iconic $20 gold coin. The piece represents Diana of the Tower, a small-scale study of the monumental figure St. Gaudens, created in the 1890s as a weather vane for the original Madison Square Garden. The full sculpture, depicting Diana poised gracefully atop a ball, once rose 18 feet high in copper before being reworked into a 13-foot version that briefly became the tallest structure in New York City. Although the original tower figure no longer survives atop the building demolished long ago, it is now preserved in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. This smaller bronze study captures the elegance and vitality of Diana with remarkable subtlety, finely modeled details, a harmonious sense of movement, and a rich, untouched patina that speaks to its age and authenticity. Signed with St. Gaudens' monogram and inscription on the reverse, the piece reflects both artistic refinement and historical significance.
It's in great shape. In a gallery at retail, this would be about $10,000, $12,000.
Oh, wow. For $5 investment, that's fabulous.
Pretty good.
She would be happy. And I
Good,
thank you
good.
very much, Martin. She would be very pleased.
My grandmother received it when she was 18 years old in 1910. She got it from a boyfriend. She's cherished it all these years. And when I turned 18, she had handed it down to me.
Did she marry the boyfriend?
No, unfortunately she didn't. I really don't even know what his name was. I wish I would have known that, but...
Poor guy.
This jewel is a late 19th century brooch, made in England around 1890, and reflects the refined craftsmanship and symbolic design popular in Victorian jewelry. The brooch is formed as a turtle, an animal motif widely associated with longevity, protection, and good fortune. It is crafted in approximately 15 to 18 karat gold and entirely handmade, with the gold carefully carved to create the frame before being set with gemstones. The body of the turtle is adorned with demantoid garnets rather than emeralds, a distinction often misunderstood. Demantoid is a rare green garnet first discovered in Russia and prized for its exceptional brilliance and vivid color. During the late 19th century, demantoid garnets of this quality were particularly favored by English and French jewelers. Small diamonds accent the design, while ruby cabochons are used for the turtle's eyes, adding a subtle but striking detail. In terms of function, the piece is ingeniously designed to serve both as a brooch and a pendant. A discreet catch and loop mechanism allows it to be worn in either form, reflecting the Victorian preference for versatile jewelry that could be adapted to different garments and occasions.
As a retail value today, you're talking about $12,000, $15,000, and possibly even $18,000. I mean, it's really quite a wonderful thing and a very saleable thing.
Well, I plan on continuing the history and giving it to my granddaughter and hoping she will do the same with her granddaughter.
Good.
I was living in Los Angeles in about 1991, and I came home one day and a box was on my front step. I took it inside, I opened it up, and I found this, and I found an address on the outside of the box that was a post office box, which I knew to be my father's. I gave him a call, and I said, "Where did this come from?" And he said, "It was something your grandmother picked up when she traveled around the world in the 1950s. And he said, "It struck me as the kind of thing that you ought to have."
This is a finely cast Chinese bronze guardian figure, believed to date to the 17th century, late Ming Dynasty, a period known for high-level bronze craftsmanship and religious statuary. Expertly modeled, the figure exhibits martial robes, a ribbon-like latticework on its tunic, and beast mask motifs on its vest elements typical of Ming guardian kings or celestial protectors. According to comparable examples, these figures were often gilded, polychromed, and enriched with glass beads or jewelry to convey both power and sanctity. On closer inspection, the head shows signs of wear or a slightly softer definition in the casting. The crown seems to fall away, and the details become less crisp, which may indicate that the casting process was tapering off. This fading sharpness in the upper part resembles the gradual wear seen in woodblock prints when the blocks are worn down. Based on its characteristics, the figure may have originally been gilded and decorated with polychrome lacquer and glass ornament, giving it a vibrant presence in its original context. The patina is especially telling. A mature, mellow coffee hue suggests that the bronze has not been overly polished and carries the gentle richness of age. Many of the glass beads remain intact, implying that its decorative elements have survived relatively well. The weight of the sculpture, described as a heavy casting, also supports the idea of a high-quality piece, made with substantial bronze rather than a hollow or lightly filled casting. Historically, such guardian figures probably served protective or ritual functions, likely positioned in temples or shrines as celestial beings guarding sacred spaces. Their form and iconography evoke Buddhist or Taoist guardian kings, invoked for their power, vigilance, and spiritual protection.
A conservative auction estimate today would be between $15,000 and $20,000.
Okay.
10 years ago, these guardian figures would carry an auction estimate of $2,000 to $3,000.
I see.
Well, it's been in my family for as long as I can remember. I remember going down to Brownsville and seeing it at my grandmother's house. I'm not sure exactly how it came into the family, but...
And do you have any idea as to its age?
No, I know it's nice because we can put your finger and you can feel the paint or whatever, the enamel that's on it, and so it tells me I think it's a little bit nicer than the ordinary base.
This porcelain vase represents the refined decorative traditions of late 19th to early 20th century China, created during the Republic period but inspired by the artistic splendor of the Qianlong era. It is crafted in porcelain and richly adorned with painted enamels in relief, a technique often associated with Mooriage-style raised decoration. Although the enamel work is not the tightest in execution, it remains skillfully applied, allowing the viewer to feel the textured surface where colors and lines gently rise from the glaze. The vase features a yellow enamel ground, alternating with celestial-themed cartouches. Within these framed scenes appear scholars among rocky landscapes, elegant ladies in garden pavilions, and other symbolic groupings, classic imagery that evokes ideals of harmony, virtue, and scholarly refinement. Surrounding the cartouches are scrolling lotus motifs, rendered with lively movement, and a collar decorated with ruyi or lingji mushroom forms, symbols of longevity and auspicious fortune. Though it bears a Qianlong rain mark, it was not created in the 18th century. The over-glaze iron red mark, the thickness of the foot rim, and the white exposed porcelain base all indicate a later production. Rather than an attempted imitation, the mark serves as an homage to the height of imperial Chinese craftsmanship, reflecting admiration for the era's artistic ideals.
Its likely start in life was as a pair, but often these pairs over 80 years become singles. Now we come to value. In a retail setting, this vase would carry a price tag of $12,000 to $15,000.
Wow. That's more than I thought. Thank you.
I brought in this pin. It was in my father's safe deposit box, and we had to open it when he passed. We actually someone had to drill it open, and we found a bunch of jewelry that I had never seen before. And this is one of the things it found. I believe it really was my grandmother's jewelry.
This pin is an early 20th century jewel whose origins are closely tied to the stylistic and material traditions of the Art Deco period. Although no maker's mark is present to identify a specific jeweler, the materials and construction suggest a high-quality piece made around 1915, most likely in the United States. It is crafted in platinum-topped 14-karat gold, a combination commonly used during this period to achieve both durability and brilliance. The focal point of the pin is a cushion-cut sapphire weighing approximately 1 carat. Its distinctive, deep, velvety blue hue strongly suggests a cashmere sapphire, one of the most highly prized varieties in the jewelry world. These sapphires originated from a short-lived deposit in the Himalayan region that was discovered around 1880 and largely exhausted by the late 19th century, making stones from this source exceptionally rare. Surrounding the central sapphire are rose-cut diamonds and additional decorative sapphires arranged in a geometric Greek key motif, reinforcing the Art Deco aesthetic of symmetry, contrast, and refined elegance.
I would have no problem estimating this for auction in the $15,000 to $20,000 range.
Oh my goodness. I guess we're going to have to reopen the estate. I'm going to have to divide this 3 ways.
Well, if the sapphire is not from cashmere, I would still say in the $5,000 to $7,000 ballpark.
We inherited it from Jean Hatton Duffy.
And this was a friend of yours?
Yes. Her and her husband didn't have any children, and she passed away in 2002 because we took care of her in her later years. She left us her home and belongings, and this was in her stuff. If we hadn't had a friend call and tell us she had it, I don't know if we'd have looked for it. What we were told was that because she worked for a magazine, I believe it was in New York, she went to Alexander Calder's studio and interviewed him, and he presented her this pin when she went to the studio.
This pin is an authentic work by Alexander Calder, one of the most influential American artists of the 20th century, internationally renowned for his groundbreaking mobiles and abstract sculpture. Although Calder is best known as a sculptor, he also created a distinctive body of jewelry, producing brooches, clips, and other small works as an extension of his sculptural practice rather than as commercial objects. The piece dates to the late 1950s, approximately between 1957 and 1959. It is made of nickel silver, a material Calder frequently used, along with aluminum, for his jewelry. The pin was entirely hand-forged, shaped from wire through bending and hammering techniques instead of traditional gemstone setting or goldsmithing methods. Many of Calder's jewelry pieces were unsigned, particularly those made as personal gifts, which explains the absence of a signature on this example.
And I would say at auction, conservative estimate would be between $20,000 and $30,000.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not.
It's a pretty powerful image. What drew you to this bronze?
I like Russian items. Doesn't matter what it is. Silver, glass, anything what's Russian. I think they have the best artists, really.
No, it's beautifully done.
Yes.
How long have you had it?
I bought it in 1975. A little ways from my workplace, a very small town in Germany, near Stuttgart.
The bronze sculpture centers on the dynamic image of a Russian Cossack, created by the elusive artist Evgeny Naps, one of several sculptors active in late 19th century Russia, who specialized in portraying energetic equestrian scenes, hunting subjects, and depictions of troikas. Although little biographical information about Naps survives, his work aligns with a recognized school of Russian bronze sculpture known for its expressive movement, detailed modeling, and vigorous storytelling. Cast at the Warfel Foundry in St. Petersburg, a workshop associated with many artists of the period, the piece likely dates from the 1870s to the 1890s. The foundry was renowned for producing finely executed bronzes before later being absorbed by Fabergé, a change that ended its outside commissions. The sculpture's sharply rendered details, from the tension in the horse's posture to the intensity in the rider's expression, reflect the naturalistic style that made Russian bronzes so distinctive in European art markets.
Did you pay a lot for it at the time?
I paid $270.
Certainly was a good purchase. I would say for auction, I would expect an estimate between $8,000 and $10,000.
It was not a bad price.
Yes.
I bought it at a garage sale about 40 years ago.
And what price did you pay 40 years ago?
$10.
$10. Do you know the country of origin?
No, I know absolutely nothing about it. I just saw it and I liked it.
That's the best reason to buy a piece. It's definitively Chinese. The decoration on the vase is what we call famille noire, which is a black glaze or black ground.
This porcelain vase is a fine example of Chinese famille noire decoration, a distinctive style characterized by a deep black ground enriched with vivid enamel paintings. Cloaked in this dark glaze, the vase features prunus blossoms, a pheasant perched atop rocky outcrops, and bamboo groves, a harmonious trio of motifs symbolizing resilience, elegance, and scholarly refinement in Chinese art. Its shape, often described as a gourd or pear-form vase, reflects classical proportions admired during the Qing period. Beneath the base lies a 6-character underglaze blue mark reading the Ming Reign Chenghua from the year 1465 to 1487. While the vase itself is not from the 15th century, the presence of this mark aligns with a well-documented historical trend. Chinese potters of the late 17th and early 18th centuries, as well as the 19th century, frequently used earlier Ming marks to honor classic styles or appeal to collectors. Closer examination reveals why this example is attributed specifically to the 18th century. The foot rim is smoothly worn evidence of natural abrasion accumulating over roughly 2 centuries. The underglaze blue used for the mark is a violet-toned, freely painted blue with depth and tonal variation, unlike the flatter, more uniform blue commonly seen in 19th-century imitations. The enamel decoration, though spontaneous and less rigidly controlled, matches the characteristic brushwork of 18th-century famille noire wares. Inside, the vase shows a desirable, aged interior, dirty, rough, and consistent with long-term use and exposure. The wear across the enamel surface also corresponds to 200 years of age, rather than the softer wear patterns typical of 19th-century examples.
100 years difference. These are quite scarce. When they do come onto the marketplace, they're in high demand. So the conservative auction estimate for this vase would be $30,000 to $50,000.
Oh my gosh. Well,
so
I am quite surprised. I had
a prudent $10 investment.
Right. Right.
In the late 70s, my wife and I went to an auction in Basingstoke, England, and we bid on it, and as I recall, that was her birthday gift to me.
Well, that's nice. Nice. You remember what you paid for it?
Just a couple £100, which would be $400 or $500 in today's money.
The bronze figure described originates from the hand of Séraphin Deneschaux, a French sculptor active in the mid-19th century. Though little known today, Deneschaux trained under prominent artists of his era and contributed to major public commissions, including work on the Louvre and the Paris Opera. His sculptural style often reflected the refined elegance and soft naturalism that would later influence the emerging Art Nouveau movement. Created likely in the 1890s, the sculpture bears the subtle aesthetic cues of that period, most notably in the gentle, elongated features of the face. Crafted from bronze, it demonstrates the meticulous casting practices of the time. A visible seam along the side reveals that the figure was cast in separate sections and joined using a tapered pin system, a traditional method that allowed for precise alignment without the need for welding or soldering. This construction detail, along with the crisp signature on the side, highlights the work's authenticity and period craftsmanship.
The piece you have here in a retail setting would probably be in the $5,000 range.
Oh, okay.
There's one that's 31 inches high. That brings about $15,000. Oh. And there was one in marble that brought $45,000.
Wow. Well, that's good.
I purchased that piece from an antique broker in our area. Basically, I bought it for the gold weight to keep and not to get rid of, but for an investment.
How many months ago or how many years ago did you do that?
I bought it about 6 months ago.
Do you mind me asking how much you paid for it?
I paid right around $800.
$800.
This piece is an elegant example of archaeological revival jewelry, a style that flourished in the 1870s to 1880s as Europe became fascinated with newly excavated sites in Egypt, Greece, Rome, and Pompeii. Inspired by ancient Etruscan and Greek goldwork, jewelers of this movement revived complex techniques that had been lost for centuries, most notably granulation, the precise application of tiny gold beads, and twisted gold wire used to form elaborate borders and decorative patterns. The brooch was likely crafted in Italy, one of the principal centers of archaeological revival goldsmithing. Rather than being a souvenir item, it was created for collectors and connoisseurs who appreciated the historical depth and technical mastery behind this revived ancient style. At its center is an unusual and expressive figure, a motif that gives the piece strong character and distinguishes it from more conventional Victorian jewelry.
If it were just a nice gold brooch, you did a good job, and I would say around $1,000. Okay. Being what it is makes it more unusual. You're looking at about $5,000 to $7,000 at auction.
Wow. Well, thank you
A
very
neat
much.
piece.
Yeah, now I'm really happy that
Yeah.
I invested in it.
I
so
think you did a good job.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
These two they're called scholars pieces. They sit on the scholar's desk and you'd have one flower in them. And I like the monochrome and peach chrome glaze, and when I saw them, got them. This one I bought here in Atlanta from a guy who sells primarily export porcelains, and he calls this domestic, and I like domestic Chinese better than I do export.
The two small vases are believed to date from the 19th century. They are Chinese scholars' vases, delicate containers traditionally placed on a scholar's desk to hold a single flower. These vases are admired for their elegant forms and the subtle beauty of their glazes, particularly monochrome and peach bloom glazes, prized for their soft hues and smooth transitions. The larger vase is thought to originate from the early 18th century, likely from the Kangxi or Yongzheng periods, circa 1690 to 1730. It demonstrates exceptional craftsmanship, with precise control over the glaze so that it stops neatly at the foot. This vase also features a crushed strawberry glaze created using copper oxide, producing a rich and distinctive texture. In contrast, the 19th century small vases may show minor imperfections, such as areas where the glaze dripped and had to be ground off, or slightly gritty foot rims, typical characteristics of that period.
At auction, these two vases would probably sell for $2,500 a piece.
Okay.
These two here. This one, on the other hand, is much, much more desirable. At auction, I would expect this piece to sell for between $8,000 to $10,000.
Whew.
It was in a cabin that my father-in-law's family owned. He had inherited it from a professor at a college. My father-in-law had driven the professor and the professor's mother on a trip to New Mexico, and he was just the young guy along, I think, to drive.
And what was the date of the trip?
That was in the late 20s. It was 1927 or 28. The only documentation I have is his word of mouth.
This large ceramic vessel originates from Acoma Pueblo in New Mexico, a community renowned for its distinctive clay that fires to a soft, pale tone, and for its exceptional ability to produce pottery with remarkably thin walls. Both characteristics are clearly and harmoniously expressed in this piece. The vessel is an olla, a traditional large storage jar used for holding water or dry goods. Its size is immediately impressive, but its true significance lies in the skill of the potter, who managed to create such a substantial form while maintaining balance, stability, and astonishingly thin walls. The lower portion displays the characteristic warm orange hue associated with Acoma pottery, while the upper surface is decorated with geometric motifs rooted in prehistoric ceramics of the region. Repeating triangles and linear patterns demonstrate a direct continuity with ancestral Pueblo traditions. Minor areas of surface breakdown at the shoulder are consistent with natural aging of the material, and overall, the vessel remains in exceptionally fine condition when considered alongside its scale and age.
Okay.
Smaller Akuma pots, especially ones that have a little bit of damage, tend to not go for a great deal of money. This sort of pot at auction or at a good gallery in Santa Fe, I think would bring $8,000 to $12,000. These big pots in this condition are so rare, you have a really, really special piece.
My husband had 2 aunts that had enough money to purchase nice art, and one was not married and the other was married but had no children. So it managed to get through without the kids beating it up, I guess. But
a little bit.
A little bit. It has some chips. I had an appraiser come to my house. He looked at it and he said, "Oh, it's chipped. It's of no value." I didn't give up on it because I liked it and my husband liked it, and I figured if it went through 112 years in his family that maybe it was worth something. So
It is the kind of object that makes you pause, not because it is perfect, but because it feels deliberate. Small losses and worn edges suggest a long journey, yet the design remains bold and confident, as if it was never meant to fade into the background. There is a sense that this piece once stood as a statement, created to impress and to endure. This porcelain work belongs to the amphora tradition of Turnteplitz in Austria, one of the most important centers of Art Nouveau ceramics at the turn of the 20th century. Amphora was a collective name used by several workshops known for highly sculptural, expressive forms that transformed ceramics into works of art. Produced as a cast porcelain piece, it was not unique. Yet examples of this complexity are scarce today. The dramatic modeling, flowing lines, and layered figures reflect the Art Nouveau fascination with movement, fantasy, and symbolism. The mark indicating Amphora, Austria, and Paris places the piece firmly around 1900 to 1905, a period shaped by world expositions where innovation and artistic ambition defined international taste.
In terms of value, even in its present condition, I think a price at auction would be $7,000 to $9,000.
oh my gosh, wow.
Now, if it were in perfect condition, you could probably double that price.
Wow.
That's what I said when I saw
Yeah,
him.
wow.
Even with a nick or two, he's a good looker.
I received it from my grandmother, who got it from a friend of hers who was an antique collector about 30 years ago.
Oh, that's marvelous. It's a Chinese eggshell porcelain bowl.
Okay.
Eggshell means, of course, very thin. So thin that you really have to be careful handling it. And it was originally one of a pair. So probably what happened to the other one is somebody broke it.
This bowl is a Chinese eggshell porcelain piece, a delicately crafted artifact whose history reflects both refined artistry and the shifting tastes of collectors over the past century. Although it bears the Qianlong mark, referencing the celebrated Qing dynasty emperor who reigned from 1735 to 1796, the bowl itself was actually produced in China during the 1920s. This period saw a flourishing industry of porcelain made specifically for the tourist and export markets, particularly appealing to Western buyers and expatriates living in China. Its most striking feature is the eggshell thin body, so fine and translucent that it must be handled with exceptional care. The bowl is decorated with elegant depictions of beautiful women, a motif highly favored by Western consumers, seeking art that unmistakably conveyed the aesthetic of Chinese porcelain. Originally part of a matching pair, only one has survived, and it likely came with a Rococo-style stand and a finely crafted presentation box. Although once considered of modest value, pieces like this have gained significant attention in recent years, as Chinese collectors increasingly seek to reclaim artworks created for early 20th century foreign markets.
However, now at auction, you'd be looking at an estimate of $2,000 to $3,000.
Awesome.
Now, if you had the pair,
that would be,
it would be somewhere in the vicinity of about $8,000 to $12,000.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
Good timing. Good timing.
Perfect.
Timing. Good 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 timing.
This was my grandmother's, and it was given to me on my wedding day by my mom and my grandma.
Have you ever had it looked at?
No.
So what can you tell me about what it's made out of?
Coral and diamonds.
Any idea of age?
I'm assuming it's Victorian, but I don't really know.
The brooch described is a Victorian-era jewelry piece, crafted in the late 19th century, likely between 1880 and 1890, when botanical and naturalistic forms were highly fashionable. Although it bears no maker's mark or country assay hallmark, its stylistic language and materials are consistent with high-quality European jewelry of the period. The piece is constructed from silver-topped gold, a technique in which a layer of silver is fused over a gold base to enhance the contrast and surface texture of the design. It is set with old mine-cut diamonds, a diamond style produced before modern cutting standards and characterized by a high crown, deep pavilion, and irregular facets, attributes that were standard in late Victorian settings and that contribute to the brooch's antique character. Most notably, the pink stones framing the central diamond work are not coral, but conch pearls, highly unusual and much rarer than typical organic gems. Conch pearls form within the queen conch, a marine mollusk found in the Caribbean, and they occur very infrequently, roughly once in every 1,000 shells. Their rich, warm luster and soft pink tones were admired in Victorian decorative arts but are seldom encountered in antique jewelry today, both because of their scarcity and modern conservation pressures on conch populations.
A fair auction estimate for this brooch we see to be in the range of $15,000 to $20,000.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yep, no, I know. It's good and old.
Oh my God.
It's beautiful.
You're kidding me. Oh my gosh.
I found them at a yard sale, and it probably was about 20 years ago. I kind of remember it pretty well because I bought about 3 sets of bookends and a number of other things.
And how much did you pay for them?
Like all yard sales, there's 2 things I look for, something I like and something that has the right price point, so it was probably about $3 to $5.
$3 to $5?
Yeah.
The pair of bookends traces its origin to the celebrated American sculptor Harriet Frischmuth, an artist whose century-long life, 1880 to 1980, spanned the evolution of American figurative art. Trained in Paris under Auguste Rodin and later in New York with Gutzon Borglum, she developed a refined mastery of dynamic human forms, especially dancers and active figures. The bookends described in the conversation are boldly signed and dated 1912, reflecting an early and highly sought-after period of her career. Their exceptional quality is further confirmed by the casting mark of the Gorham Foundry, the most prestigious American foundry of the era, known for meticulous records and limited production runs. Numbered examples such as these not only offer artistic value but also rarity, which strongly enhances their desirability.
In terms of the value, in a gallery setting, these would be about $10,000.
Awesome! Whoa! More than I paid for them.
A little bit more.
My grandmother, after my grandfather died, she bought a house in Manhattan Heights here. And when she bought it, it was fully furnished and all the artwork and everything was in it. I think she bought it right after the war, 45, something like that.
So what brought you to bring this in today?
Well, actually, I had a friend who had an extra ticket, and he called me up at 10 o'clock and said, bring something, so that's what I grabbed.
This bronze sculpture traces its origins to Charles Raphael Peyret, 1872 to 1949, a French artist who worked during the vibrant creative era at the turn of the 20th century. Peyret was active in the Paris salons, earned recognition in various competitions, and became respected for his refined academic style. His works often revisited classical themes, bringing mythological figures to life with elegance and movement. The sculpture depicts the 3 Graces, daughters of Zeus who symbolize beauty, charm, and joy. Peyre captures them in an animated and harmonious composition, enhanced by a rich verdigris patina that gives the bronze its characteristic green tone. The piece bears the signature Charles Raphael Peyre, Paris, France, on the front, and the foundry mark on the side confirms that it was created using the lost wax casting method, a technique known for preserving fine details.
For insurance purposes, you want to look at a figure in the $9,000 range. So it's a nice work by a well-regarded French sculptor and great to see.
Wow, that's great.
My grandparents married in 1926, and they went to Europe and particularly France for their honeymoon. And she came back with these pieces and several others. My grandmother loved these pieces. She wore them a lot. My mom did. Both of them passed away when I was fairly young, so my sister and I inherited, and we've worn them and enjoyed them, but we don't know much about them.
This jewel, crafted in France around 1926, reflects the refined workmanship of leading Parisian ateliers of the Art Deco era. Although unmarked, its platinum construction, pavé diamond setting, and precise geometric layout align closely with techniques used by top French houses of the period. The piece is structured as a pavé, set platinum brooch featuring a central baguette diamond flanked by two tapered baguettes, embodying the clean symmetry characteristic of Art Deco design. Its most striking feature is its fully articulated and convertible mechanism. The brooch fitting unscrews, allowing the central element to be worn as a pendant on its original platinum and diamond chain and matching bail. A later aquamarine drop has been added, but all original components required to restore the jewel to its intended configuration remain intact.
If you were to get the piece back in its original condition, so it could be worn as a pendant and also as a brooch, I would say that if you had to replace this item, you would have to spend about $30,000.
Whoa. My sister's going to be amazed.
My birthday usually falls on Thanksgiving vacation, and a very good friend of mine who was an antiques dealer in Baltimore called me up and said that he had a piece that he'd just gotten from an estate that he thought that I should have. So I went and looked at it and fell in love with it instantly. I asked him what the price was, and he told me, and I said, oh, well, I can't afford that. And he said, well, go home and ask your mother to give it to you for your birthday. So I did, and she said, oh, well, that was way too much. And I said, well, how about birthday and Christmas? She gave it to me for my birthday and Christmas combined. She paid $350.
This exquisitely carved censer is a refined example of Chinese craftsmanship created in the early 20th century, but deeply rooted in the artistic traditions of the 18th century Qing dynasty. Fashioned from a single block of even pure white stone, the vessel reflects the classical aesthetics admired during the Qianlong period, balanced, elegant, and symbolically rich. Its body is encircled by lotus vines in raised relief, a motif associated with purity and spiritual harmony. The vines flow seamlessly around the censer, demonstrating the artisan's mastery in creating depth, texture, and rhythmic movement. The handles feature loose, articulated rings, a technically demanding achievement requiring exceptional precision to carve the rings free while preserving the integrity of the stone. A delicately carved butterfly forms one of the handles, symbolizing joy, renewal, and good fortune. Although inspired by Imperial Qing examples, subtle carving lines on the leaves indicate an early 20th century creation, where craftsmen revived classical motifs with slightly less polished finishing. This stylistic blend traditional design, interpreted through later workmanship, makes the censer especially appealing to modern collectors, particularly those seeking pieces that echo the refined serenity of 18th century art.
And if you wanted to sell this at auction today, my sense is that it would be in the $50,000 to $80,000 range at auction, which is a pretty good price.
Well, it's still a very nice birthday present.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Don't you think?
And I have to say, I don't know many people that have put $300 down and ended up with something like this.
I inherited it from my mother, who received it from her grandmother. They lived in New York City, and this was part of a longette.
This piece is an elegant example of American Belle Epoque jewelry, crafted between 1905 and 1915, a period known for its refined platinum work and the growing popularity of diamond-accented brooches. Although the jeweler remains unidentified, the design and execution strongly reflect the standards of early 20th century American workshops, which specialized in airy, luxurious ornaments for formal attire. The brooch is constructed in platinum and set with an impressive series of old European cut diamonds, 12 stones in total, each weighing around half a carat or slightly more. When combined, the diamonds reach an approximate total weight of 10 carats, displaying fine color in the FG range and clarity of at least VS, indicating stones that are bright, clean, and highly desirable. At its center rests a remarkable natural pearl of button shape, measuring approximately 10 millimeters. Its luster, depth, and thick nacre layer exemplify the qualities prized in naturally formed pearls, which were exceedingly rare even in the early 1900s.
So if I put this into auction, I would put it in for $12,000 to $18,000. All right? I would expect it to do exceedingly well. I don't see it selling at the low. I would insure it for $28,000.
Thank you.